Hi, I'm old Sneelock. Beautiful. Now comes the fun of laying out the angle on these hubs. Now this is what I'm going to use for handle material. Is it the best in the world? Absolutely not. Is it good enough for a garden wheelbarrow? I think so. These boards are definitely strong enough. I don't know what they are. Some kind of pine, spruce, something like that. They're off a pallet. They're tough as the hubs of Hades. Now with our precision straight edge here, actually it's just a piece of aluminum extrusion that seems to be fairly consistent, and I've used it for a straight edge for a number of years. Quick clamp it to the wheel, and that'll give me a pretty good estimate of the center line. Use this scrap piece of wood as a layout, just so I have everything This is why you can never have too many clamps. They're so useful. This wheel is 1.25 inches wide. So that makes this center line 5/8 from that line. So I line up my 2-inch mark so I don't have any problems with the hook throwing me off. And I come over to the 2 5/8 mark, and there I have a center line of this wheel going from there to there. Yep, more than close enough. I don't need to do any worries about high-speed tracking, but as long as you're doing it, you might as well do it right. $17, 8.5. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm actually right where I want to be. So the box is going to be 30 inches long. And 32.5. The cuts I need to make on the front are going to be at this much of an angle. That's where the wheel is going to line up. And that's where the axle's going to line up. The same bit of guesstimation over here. Just to keep the things believable, I'll leave that there, and I'm going to use another straight edge. Eyeballing down. This side over here is a little off. This side seems to be pretty close. Yep. Everything seems to line up okay. And that puts me in a happy place with my bevel gauge. Since this one is the least expensive of all, although it seems to be fairly accurate, I will use this one for welding because I hate to damage good ones. There. Now, just to keep things on the up and up and make sure that I'm repeatable, I'm going to measure the angle. That way I can say, okay, I got to come back to a whatever. Put my protractor up against the bevel gauge, lock down the protractor. Comes out to 78 degrees. Pretty spiffy, huh? Even though I have a recording of the numbers on the camera, every once in a while things just align wrong and the camera dies. Or I'll lose a file or whatever. So if I say that 78 degrees is the angle that this board lines up with the axle, and I write it down on a piece of paper, I got a backup. And that is a nice little line across where the wheel runs. And I can say, is that 78 degrees? Well, that's an easy thing to check. Just take my bevel gauge and run it up there and go, well, by golly, it is. It's at 78 degrees right now. Need to shorten it up. And I want to come back and make sure I hit that same number again. I just have to do this. Still at 78. There, my bevel gauge puts my straight edge on the right angle. And I use my straight edge as a reference and mark a line there and a line over here. That's the front of the wheel. I want to have the box mounted as close to the wheel as I can. I don't want to have to put a cut into the box. That will add an unnecessary complication. And I do not want to put a bevel on the front of the box because this is for planting. If I put plants in a shallow area, they won't grow well. So I need to have the front of the box as straight up and down as I can get it, which means I can just make it 90 degrees, that's easy enough. But I want to have it back far enough so it's not going to run into the wheel. Kind of necessary thing if you're going to actually use the wheel to move anything. So with that in mind, and accounting for variations and changes in the life of things, so 30 inches from this line, where the front of the box is going to land. I'm going to break a cardinal rule of measuring. You always use the same measurement device every time you make a measurement. That way you know that things aren't going to vary on you. But knowing that I'm breaking a cardinal rule, I can adapt. I can say I have a straight edge, and this should be a 30-inch measurement. I'm off by a 1/16 of an inch from the rule to the tape measure. But since I don't go by the hook, I go to the 1-inch mark, and I am dead bang on. That tells me the hook on this tape measure is not consistent. Well, it's from Harbor Freight. It's not the world's greatest. Now I have a pretty good guesstimation where I want to cut the handles at. I'd like to have the handles as long as possible. So I'm going to go back here to the back edge, and as long as that side is, I'm going to make this side the same size. I have 9 inches on this side. Nine inches. Come over here and do the same thing. Now, since this handle doesn't have to reference the box, I want to make the ends of the handle square. Makes it easier to carve the handle out. And what I intend to do is just make about a 2-inch square handle, then come out here and draw a line and put a nice smooth radius on it. What I'll probably do is just actually measure that out and then take a can and put it up against the line there and draw a nice line so I got a good radius to work from. On the front here, on the front, I'm going to put a piece of angle iron to bridge across and join these two handles together. That way they won't be trying to hold themselves in position with just the axle. It'll also provide a nice sturdy spot for when you dump the wheelbarrow. Now admittedly, this is not for hauling stuff, but occasionally you're still going to want to dump the dirt out of it. So if I give it a good solid rest on the front here, I'll be able to roll it up onto the front, dump the dirt out, set it back down, and load it with new fresh dirt come spring. I think I have a good layout for the frame rails. And this gives me a good angle for the axles and a location for the axles. Knowing that these are at 78 degrees to this, I can now cut the small pieces of steel that I'm going to weld to these hubs and bolt to the bottom of the frames. And I can weld them at 78 degrees and know that they're going to be right. Well, we've done quite a bit on the project list today. Did quite a bit on the wheelbarrow project today. Got the handles laid out. Getting the angles figured out took a little bit of time, but it's ready to go. Now I need to cut these two 2x4s up into making the handles. Also, I need to cut the axle mount brackets out of this piece of steel and weld the axle mounts to it. So that's going to be another day or two. I've been working on the project list and I've managed to knock off a few, but there's more being added every day. So hang in there, we've always got work ahead of us. If you have any suggestions for new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all.